In the 5th year of liking William, I rescued him from the kidnappers. But my hearing was damaged, and I had to rely on a hearing aid. On William's birthday, I overheard his words from outside the private room: "Emma sacrificed her hearing to save you for a lifetime. Doesn't that move you at all?" William lightly scoffed. "When she was healthy, I didn't even like her. And now that she's deaf, how could I possibly have feelings for a disabled person?" Later, his uncle hugged me, but he asked me tearfully why I no longer wanted him. His uncle chuckled and then leaned down to kiss me, casting a skeptical glance at William, asking if he minded seeing an elder kiss. On William's birthday, I arrived at the club with a carefully prepared gift. Just as I placed my hand on the door handle, I heard a female voice from inside the room: "Emma sacrificed her hearing to save you for a lifetime. Doesn't that move you at all?" I instinctively gripped the door handle tighter, pressing my ear with the hearing aid against the door to hear more clearly. After a long silence, William coldly scoffed: "When she was healthy, I didn't like her. And now that she's deaf, how could I possibly have feelings for a disabled person?" A sharp pain struck deep in my heart. William seemed to have forgotten that I had become deaf to save him from being a healthy person. He continued: "Why would our family let a deaf person in?" Before he could finish, I pushed the door open and entered, cutting off William's words. All eyes in the room were suddenly fixed on me, their expressions a bit uneasy. William looked up at me, reclining lazily on the sofa, and said, "I didn't invite you." I instinctively frowned, knowing that I had received a text message from William inviting me to his birthday party. Anna, who was sitting next to William, spoke up: "She came to celebrate your birthday. Why are you being so mean to her?" I looked at Anna and instantly had an answer in my heart. There was only Anna in this world who would have access to William's phone to send me a text message. Anna's question to William was intentional, meant for me to hear. She never liked me, I knew that. With a disdainful look in his eyes, William was about to say something when I beat him to it, placing the gift on the table with a smile: "Happy birthday." William's eyes showed contempt as he tried to speak, but I cut him off: "I won't bother you anymore, and I won't like you anymore." I paused: "This should be the birthday gift you want most." The room fell into dead silence, the air almost stagnant. William's face darkened, his eyes staring at me intensely, a hint of anger building in his expression. Meanwhile, Anna was scrutinizing my face, trying to determine the truth behind my words. Not wanting to continue the confrontation, I turned and left. Someone whispered, "It looks like Emma is really angry." I heard William say, "In a few days, she'll be back like a dog wagging its tail," unable to shake her off. William's tone was full of disdain, as if I was truly his obedient dog at his beck and call. After all, in these 5 years of loving him, I loved him too much. Loved him to the point of becoming deaf for him. The car window reflected the hearing aid on my ear. I remembered waking up in the hospital, the doctor and my family looking at me apologetically. I saw their mouths moving, but I couldn't hear a thing. Without them telling me, I knew I was deaf. Because I took the hit for William from the kidnapper swinging a stick at him. The stick hit my ear directly, and with the additional infection from being thrown into the dirty water by the kidnappers, my already injured ear suffered severe damage, causing my left ear to lose all hearing. Even my right ear, which was not initially damaged, could no longer hear due to the psychological impact. The doctor said I would have to rely on hearing aids for the rest of my life. William came with his family to visit me in the hospital, and he coldly and distantly said, "Thank you." William's family said they would compensate my family, as my deafness had brought lucrative orders to our company. William only said thanks and completely forgot that it was his mockery that made the kidnapper angry enough to swing the stick. He also forgot that it was because I was out running errands to deliver a watch to him that I ended up being the one held hostage. I was not even part of the kidnapper's plans, it was all about William. This kidnapping was an undeserved disaster for me. I touched my hearing aid, feeling a sharp pain in my chest, suffocating. I disappeared into William's world. I saw William again a month later in the mall, where he was helping Anna shop for clothes. "Do you think this coat looks good?" I heard Anna's voice, looking up instinctively to see Anna holding up a white coat and gesturing. William didn't look up, just kept his eyes on his phone, showing some impatience. "Hurry and buy it. My uncle is returning to the country today, and I have to go back early. William's uncle returning was a big deal for his family. Shawn, the successful business genius who had just turned 30, was a renowned figure, the true authority figure in William's family, and the elder William admired the most. Salesperson I know rushed over to me. "Emma, your stuff is ready." William suddenly frowned and looked in my direction. His eyes lit up briefly when he saw me, then his face darkened again. Anna also looked at me with hostility. I've always known why Anna dislikes me, because she left William to go abroad, and I've been with William all along. She thinks I am taking advantage of the situation and even hinted that I am her replacement when she returned to the country. For years, I've had a question: why does Anna have to break up with William just because she goes abroad? It's something that can be solved with just a plane ticket, especially when William's family has their own private jet. When I started to like William, Anna had already mentioned breaking up and going to another country, so I knew why Anna was so hostile towards me, but I still didn't understand. I took the bag from the salesperson and was about to turn around when William stopped me. "Emma." William's expression was smug. "So you couldn't resist and followed me here?" I stared into his eyes and took off my hearing aid, and suddenly the whole world became silent. William looked at me in disbelief, and I smirked before turning away. Being deaf actually has its advantages. I brought the gift to the bar for my friend's birthday party. After a few drinks, my consciousness gradually became a bit blurry. The metal drum was noisy, and the lights above projected a bizarre and extravagant scene. Friends who came together drank too much and ran to the dance floor to let loose, leaving me alone at the table. The noise was bothering me, so I reached up and gently pulled off my hearing aid. After taking off the hearing aid, the whole world seemed to be muted instantly, losing all sounds. I was still not used to a world without sound. The party continued on, without music or conversation. People's revelry seemed somewhat ridiculous, and after losing my hearing, I often observed human behaviors like this. I took a big sip of drink, and the screen of my phone on the table lit up. I reached for it, and it was a message from William. "Where are you?" I stared at the screen for a long time, then closed the phone and looked up, only to meet the playful eyes of a man. I was surprised to see Shawn, who should have been attending a family gathering, in the bar. The bar lights were dim. Shawn's features were dark and handsome, with deep black eyes like blades, casting a deep gaze that could captivate anyone at first sight. That's what I thought the first time I saw him. Shawn looked down at me, with an imposing manner that made me nervous. I didn't know why he would stand in front of me on his own. He said something. I pointed to my ear, then waved my hand, meaning I couldn't hear. Mike raised an eyebrow slightly, his gaze falling on the hearing aid casually placed on the sofa, and he smirked slightly. We stared at each other, him above, me below. He opened his mouth. I put on the hearing aid, and the noise flooded my ears, causing me to involuntarily furrow my brow. Mike's gaze never left me, and he leaned in slightly to my ear so I could hear him better. "Long time no see." His voice was deep, and whether it was the alcohol or not, I felt like his voice had a mesmerizing charm. I leaned back, creating some distance between us, looking at him cautiously. The phone screen lit up again, and I glanced at it. It was a message from William. "What are you up to today? Are you trying to provoke me? Stop following me, I won't like you." His humiliating words at the birthday banquet echoed in my ears, and I was so angry that my ears were ringing. Shawn also looked at my phone screen and snorted disdainfully. I looked up at him, and a twisted thought suddenly crossed my mind. Before my brain could give any command, my body acted on its own. I grabbed Shawn's collar and pulled him down, our lips meeting. Despite my nervousness, Shawn showed no signs of being taken by surprise. I tentatively extended my tongue to lick his lips, but Shawn remained unmoved. Feeling a bit defeated, I pulled back, breathing heavily, locking eyes with Shawn somewhat aggressively. "Are you incapable?" The next moment, he grabbed the back of my head and deepened the kiss even more, the increasingly intense kiss sucking the air out of my chest. Just as I thought I was about to suffocate to death, he let go. Shawn's kiss landed on my ear, his voice now husky with a tinge of desire. "Still think I'm incapable?" I fled in panic, forgetting even my phone. I comforted myself by thinking about how much the phone was worth, kissing Shawn meant I was as good as dead. Though fleeing might be shameful, it's effective. I was completely submerged in the bathtub, buried deep, and by then the alcohol had worn off. My fingertips slowly traced my lips, feeling like they were still pressed against another's. Shawn's lips were as cold as his demeanor. I could only attribute my recent behavior to a drunken frenzy, ready to bite myself for drinking too much and not remembering anything. As I confessed while taking a bath for a long time, I came out, wrapped in a robe, and rummaged through everything to find liquor. After a night of messing around, I had no desire to sleep. I thought about drinking a little more to get myself drunk and sleep well. After picking a bottle, the doorbell ringy picked up the bottle and went to open the door, seeing Shawn on the monitor. Shawn had a bold and provocative aura, leaning against the door frame with one hand and continuously pressing the doorbell with the other. His pitch-black eyes seemed to collide abruptly with mine through the monitor's lens. Feeling inexplicably guilty, I lowered my eyes for a moment. He kept ringing the doorbell, and I knew he would break the door if I didn't open it. So, reluctantly, I opened the door. He stood facing the dim light, looking sullen and menacing. "Kiss and run, Emma, quite a skill you have." Shawn gazed at me, his narrow dark eyes hidden in the shadows, revealing no clear emotions. I weakly replied, "What are you talking about?" "I don't remember anything." Shawn scanned me from head to toe, his gaze landing on the bottle of red wine in my hand, and lightly scoffed, "Hadn't you drunk too much? I see you haven't had enough. Getting ready to drink a little more on your own won't be much fun. Shall I accompany you to continue drinking and help you remember what you did to me?" My forehead throbbed, and I shook my head repeatedly, turning my back to hide the bottle. Shawn pursed his lips, as if suppressing a smile. He showed little emotion on his face and handed me the phone. "You forgot your phone." I took the phone, thanked him softly, "Thank you." The next day, I went to work with not-so-great spirits. In the meeting room, waiting for the representative of the Smiths group to come, I was taken aback when the door opened. I hadn't expected William to be the one in charge this time. There was silence in the meeting room. William leaned over, elbows on the table, chin resting on the clasped hands, the scattered hair covering his icy eyes, emitting a freezing chill that made everyone in the room feel suffocated. His gaze was fixed on me, staring at me as if catching a cheating wife. Flashbacks of kissing Shawn forcibly last night made me uncomfortable, praying for the meeting to end quickly. After the meeting, as I was about to get up with the documents, William stopped me. "Emma, hold on, I need to talk to you privately about something." Others in the meeting room were astute enough to quickly leave. As soon as the meeting room door closed, his questions came one after another. "Why didn't you reply to my messages or answer my calls?" William smirked, a hint of mockery in his tone. "Or were you too busy finding a new man?" It sounded a bit off, and I frowned at him. "Someone saw you fighting with a man in a bar yesterday." William's voice was cold, mixed with tension, but then he continued, "But it's okay. I can overlook who that man was. I know you just wanted to make me jealous. Starting today, you won't see other men. I forgive you, and you can come back to me." His attitude was that of a forgiving husband to his cheating wife. Calmly, I asked, "Have you had too much to drink? What concern is it of yours if I meet with men? Do I need your forgiveness?" William's face darkened, and not wanting to argue further, I stood up to leave. Just as I took a step, William stopped me. "Emma, if you step out of this door, forget about the resort in the southern city." I paused, turned to look at him. "What do you mean?" William's face held a thin layer of hostility, his presence somewhat oppressive. "I know you and your illegitimate younger brother are vying for the heir position. The resort in the southern city is the key to your victory. But if you make me unhappy, I will definitely sabotage this project." As the words fell, the atmosphere turned icy. It felt like an extremely cold snowstorm had hit, freezing the air, leaving no room for breath. "I have turned deaf ears for you, paid the price for liking you. What more do you want from me?" William's gaze was steady. "Emma, I just said as long as you continue orbiting around me and keep me happy, that's enough. As long as I want. Sabotaging a resort project is not a difficult task for me. I have been patient enough with you, don't challenge me further." I felt like William's brain had been kicked by a donkey. The secretary reminded me that I had to attend a banquet the next night, and I hadn't enjoyed these occasions since the incident. There would always be some who enjoyed watching a spectacle, staring at my hearing aid. My imperfections became their post-dinner conversation. However, the host of this banquet had close ties with the group, so I had to show up. When I arrived, the banquet had not yet begun. I tried to sneak into a corner with a drink. Sensing a gaze on me, I looked up, met by a pair of pitch-black eyes. Shawn held his posture casually, but exuded an aura of dominance reserved for the elite. Someone was chatting with him by the side, but he paid no attention, his gaze fixed on me. He raised his glass to me, I pursed my lips, pretended not to see, and turned to see William walking hand in hand with Anna. Stopping not far from me, William casually glanced in my direction, his gaze brushing over my ears. Today I had let my hair down, covering the hearing aid. We weren't far from them. I sipped my drink, and Anna spoke. "Thanks for the dress you sent." William remained silent, and Anna said softly, "After all these years, you still remember my preferences." I remembered the threats William made to me in the meeting room, finding it amusing. It seemed like the hearing aid was acting up, so I decided to adjust it in the bathroom. Coming out of the bathroom, I bumped into Anna at the corner of the hallway. She seemed to be waiting for me. When she saw me, she casually adjusted her earring and sarcastically mocked, "Where did Emma learn the trick of playing hard to get? I'm almost considering becoming her student." Instead of getting angry at her mockery, I asked the question that was on my mind just couldn't understand. "Where does all your malice towards me come from? When I met William, you had already broken up with William and gone abroad for school. I've been wondering these days, with so many long-distance relationships in the world, why did you have to break up as soon as you went abroad?" I did some digging and finally found out the reason. Anna's face instantly darkened when she heard the word investigation. "So, you broke up with William only after taking money from his family, because they thought your background wasn't worthy of the title Mrs. Smith. You pretend you're not doing well abroad, as if you're suffering. Would you like me to list out your guests abroad?" I didn't hide my sarcasm. "You work so hard, how could you have suffered materially? I can find out all these things, do you think William's family can't? If I were you, I wouldn't harbor fantasies about Mrs. Smith's position, would use William's genuine feelings for me, his resources, to raise my profile in the domestic market, have him help me organize art exhibitions, and advance my career." Anna looked embarrassed, gritting her teeth. She said, "Not everyone is as privileged as you." Ignoring her, I advised her, "Men are unreliable, only yourself can be relied on." I tore down the final fig leaf between her and William. "William won't marry you. If he wanted to marry you, he would have done so years ago. He won't go against his mother, who never liked you from the start. If she finds out what you've been up to all these years abroad, she will stop at nothing to bring you down. Instead of continuing to cling to William and waiting for his mother to come humiliate you, it's better to cut your losses early and use everything you can to stand firm." Anna coldly laughed, showing no appreciation for my advice. "Don't pretend to be magnanimous and give me those so-called suggestions. You just want me to back off, so you can take my place." She looked at me, her eyes full of mockery. "What if you turn deaf to save him? He still doesn't like you. To William, you're just a whore who would be rejected even if you offered yourself on a plate." I gazed indifferently at her, my eyes filled with coldness and anger. Suddenly, a deep male voice came from behind me, "Anna?" Anna's gaze passed over my head to the man behind me, her expression froze, her eyes becoming frantic. Standing beside me, Mike glanced meaningfully at Anna. The longer he looked, the more she trembled. Mike's lips curled up in a sly smile. "Is Anna still practicing your old profession at night?" Anna's face turned pale, her lips trembling. "You've mistaken me for someone else." Ignoring her, Mike asked casually, "Is the price still the same as before?" As Anna tried to walk away, Mike grabbed her arm and teasingly said, "They say a day as husband and wife creates 100 days of grace. After all those nights we've spent together, pretending not to know each other is a bit unkind, isn't it?" Glancing at me in a hurry, Anna met my gaze with a smile. I said, "I won't interrupt." Anna catching up with an old client. "Mike and I have known each other since childhood. We grew up together, our family villas sharing a hilltop, and from my bedroom balcony, I could see Mike's backyard. We have always been the best of friends. But when I returned home after growing up, Mike stayed abroad without any intention of coming back, until his father's health issues forced him to return home to take over the family business. Mike casually played with the cap of a lighter with his thumb, which I recognized as the lighter I gave him 2 years ago. Standing on the steps, he shielded his lips from the wind, calmly lit a cigarette. He offered me the cigarette pack, but I politely refused. Raising an eyebrow at me, Mike asked, "Quit smoking?" I nodded, then shook my head. He chuckled, "You try to quit smoking at least a dozen times a year, fail every time. Why bother with it?" Rolling my eyes, I retorted, "I'm fine with that, does it matter to you?" Mike blew out a puff of smoke, slightly indulgent. "Do what you want, I won't interfere." As a gust of wind blew, I shivered, and he looked at me, took the cigarette from his mouth, took off his jacket and draped it over me. As I adjusted the jacket, I asked him, "How do you know Anna?" Disdainfully, Mike chuckled, "I paid her $200,000 for 2 months, how do you think I know her?" Frowning, I said, "But you obviously knew she was with William." Mike took a drag of his cigarette, casually saying, "What does Anna and William have to do with me? I don't know William well. Anna came to me on her own. I found her attractive. Her price was worth her face. I paid her every penny." Pausing for a moment, he added, "I even paid her the net $20,000. Anna is indeed beautiful, no one with eyes can deny that." I looked at him in silence. Mike's gaze fell on my hearing aid. His expression became complicated, filled with pity. "Does it still hurt now?" I can never forget the scene of Mike flying back to the country after I got injured, his eyes turning red when he heard that I would never recover my hearing, waving his fists at William. At that moment, I even thought he would kill William. I shook my head. "It doesn't hurt anymore, it's just that the world feels quiet without the hearing aid, still takes some getting used to." Mike reached out to adjust my coat tighter, muttering to himself, "You really have bad luck." I looked down at him and let out a sigh. I kissed Shawn. Mike's hand froze, looking at me with a puzzled expression. I pursed my lips, feeling a bit guilty, twice. Mike's brows furrowed gradually, his eyes becoming complex, too complex for even me to read. At the banquet, Anna was stiff to the point of being unnatural. I didn't intend to expose her shortcomings, but her attitude towards me was becoming unbearable. After the banquet, the hospital called for Mike to come over urgently. Mike left in a hurry. I waited for the driver to pick me up and leave, but instead of the driver called to say the tire was punctured. As I was making a call, a car stopped steadily in front of me. The window rolled down slowly, revealing Shawn's face. "Get in." His tone was calm but not up for refusal. I didn't move, not wanting to get involved with him any further. He said again, "You can't conjure up 4 new tires out of thin air." I looked at him, having a clue in my mind. Furious, I questioned him, "Are you out of your mind? You punctured all 4 tires." Before Shawn could respond, William's voice came from behind. I stiffened, meeting William's inquiring gaze. He was waiting for me to make a choice. I opened the car door and got in. I slowly rolled down the window to meet William's gaze, sitting in Shawn's car as it drove away. I raised the window, watching the changing scenery outside, silently cursing at myself for what I was doing. Suddenly, Shawn asked me, "Who am I to you?" I was puzzled, stiffly answering, "The CEO of Smith's Group." William seemed unsatisfied with that answer, leaning slightly towards me, his expression calm. "Anything else?" I frowned, not understanding what answer he was looking for with this question. "What do you mean, who am I?" "Your boyfriend." "Think carefully, Emma. What William can give you, I can also give, and what William can't, I still can. I know William threatened you with a resort, and this time with the holiday resort in the south of the city. I can also make sure you get it, Emma. I made you drink. Made you drunk and lose your judgment to kiss Shawn. Are you dumb?" Shawn looked at me, his eyes filled with pity, as if hiding something. I've always wondered, since our first meeting, he's always looked at me with that expression. At that time, I hadn't become deaf because of William, there was nothing to pity. Seeing me silent, he asked, what are you thinking? Annoyed, I turned my head away. I don't know, can't hear. I took off my hearing aid and closed my eyes. If it works, it works. Taking a 3-day leave, preparing to figure out a way to quickly get rid of these two pests from the Smiths. Their family business is huge, I can't afford to provoke any of them. I didn't expect that after my leave, the first person I contacted would be Anna. Anna looked at me, with a sense of resignation on her face. Not everyone is as fortunate as you are. This was the second time she told me this. I did break up with William for the money, thinking I could gain freedom by going abroad, work hard to change my fate, but fate doesn't spare anyone. My gambling addict mother showed up, beating me brutally with her lover, forcing me to give up all my money. Stranded in a foreign land, I couldn't even afford the cheapest burgers. She paused, chuckled softly, her eyes red. I listened quietly, waiting for her to continue. I couldn't even afford a plane ticket back home, let alone go back just like that. The dreams I had since childhood were within reach, but the price I paid to leave the country is something you privileged rich kids can't imagine. She struggled to speak every word, so I did some shameful things. Tears fell uncontrollably, she wiped them away with her hand. My reputation abroad was tarnished, only able to return home. Those years abroad had smoothed all my edges. Thoughts of success through my efforts were buried deeply within me. Since that moment I took the room key handed to me by a stranger. I got close to William again, wanting to become Mrs. Smith's. But I didn't know he already had you, a woman willing to become deaf for him. I sipped my tea, calmly stating, "But you're his crush, I'm just the whore you described, willing to offer myself only to be rejected." Anna raised an eyebrow and smirked. "He may say you're just his backup, but deep down he cares a lot. When you disappeared for a month, he couldn't focus on work, messed up several deals, and stared at his phone every day, afraid of missing your messages." I thought I would be thrilled to hear this, but I felt nothing inside, almost wanting to laugh. I cut to the chase and asked her, "Did you ask me out today just to tell me all this?" She nodded and smiled. "His mother approached me, insulted me, then gave me some money with the condition that I have to make it clear to you that it was only me pursuing William, and that William does care about you." After speaking, she took out a photo from her bag and placed it on the table in front of me. "I found this in William's study. Consider it an apology gift to you, to make up for my unfriendliness towards you recently." As I lowered my eyes to look at the photo, I froze completely. My gaze lingered on the photo, time ticking by. The picture showed me snuggling in Shawn's arms, looking sweet and happy, like a couple deeply in love. I took the photo to meet Mike. Mike, who hadn't rested well, had a faint tiredness on his face as he gazed at the fish in the pond. William had approached Anna, gave her some money to leave. Mike didn't even lift his eyelids, just uttered a faint humph. "It's expected, Anna can be ruthless," he said, handing me fish food and changing the subject. "Have you been seeing the psychologist regularly lately?" I sprinkled a cup of fish food onto the water's surface, watching the ripples form. Can't be bothered. My right ear's hearing loss is psychological, and even with a hearing aid, I still can't hear. The doctor suggested psychological treatments, but after a few sessions with no effect, I gave up. Mike frowned, not agreeing. "How can you be like this? You have to find the reason first." Ignoring him, I raised my hand to take off the hearing aid, emphasizing that not hearing meant not feeling irritated. He grabbed my hand, sighed helplessly. "Don't take it off then, I won't nag you. I'll take you to see that master." Following Emma, I arrived at the place, all the way wanting to ask about the photo. But for some reason, I couldn't bring myself to ask. 5 years ago, I had a car accident, losing some of my memories. Every time I tried to learn about those memories from Mike, he would evade the topic and switch to something else. After meeting the master, Mike suddenly said, "When you said you saw the man from your dreams, I should have stopped you back then." My steps faltered, and I tugged at my lips. Before meeting William, I used to dream about a man, believing he was my destined soulmate arranged by fate. It wasn't until a gathering when I met William, who bore a striking resemblance to the man in my dreams. I was convinced he was my true love, starting my path of pursuing him. I bumped into Shawn, who was standing by the car making a call. Shawn glanced at Mike and nodded slightly, acknowledging each other. The atmosphere felt awkward, as I remembered the sweet moments captured in the photo with Shawn, feeling uncomfortable. Shawn mentioned he was here to accompany his family's elders. Not wanting to encounter William's mother, I grabbed Mike to leave quickly. As we descended the mountain, we were both silent the whole way. As I was about to ask Mike about the photo in my bag, the driver suddenly braked hard, followed by a loud crashing sound. Mike, who was dozing off, immediately woke up and held me, asking if I was hurt. I shook my head, my ears filled with the sound of my own frantic heartbeat. We got off the car to check the situation. Turns out the car in front had hit a pregnant woman, causing her to fall, and the driver had fled the scene. Mike called the authorities and went to check on the woman. I gazed back, and Shawn came out of the car behind us, walking towards me. I turned to look at the pregnant woman lying on the ground, blood spreading from her legs onto the ground. I stared at this scene in a daze, a surge of overwhelming emotions flooding my mind. Unbearable pain spread from my abdomen to my whole body, making me unable to stand, legs trembling until I couldn't help but crouch down, holding my stomach. Shawn hurried over, squatting down to support me, looking tense. "What's wrong? Where does it hurt?" A sharp ringing noise filled my ears. Unable to make out anything Shawn was saying, I muttered, "I lost my baby, my baby." Shawn hugged me, reassuring me, "It's okay, everything will be fine. I'm here, everything will be okay." All the memories hit me like a tsunami, engulfing me instantly. Snowy mountains, a wooden cabin, body parts, a mother's empty shell, a car accident, the smell of blood. And the man who had always been by my side, Shawn. As flashbacks played out like a movie before my eyes, the pain in my chest worsened, the taste of blood in my mouth. I clutched my heart, falling to the ground. Before losing consciousness, I heard Shawn say in my right ear, "Everything will be okay." When I woke up, I found myself staring blankly at the hospital ceiling. I turned my head slightly and noticed the needle stuck in my wrist. As I tried to pull it out, Mike's hand stopped me, his voice trembling as he told me I had been in a coma for 7 days. He tried to speak, but my voice came out hoarse. Where was he? Mike hesitated before saying, "You remember everything." I remained silent, gazing at him, then slipped back into unconsciousness. I met Shawn while on vacation. I was looking at my phone while walking and accidentally bumped into a waiter carrying a box of peaches. The peaches spilled all over me, and as I was allergic, I quickly started having trouble breathing. Shawn helped me up from the ground and administered the adrenaline I carried in my bag, saving my life. Our story unfolded naturally from there. We fell in love quickly, two lonely souls meeting in a foreign land. Shawn had taken one last vacation before taking over the Smiths group. We were inseparable, planning our future together. It was a whirlwind romance until my mom came to me, seeking refuge because my dad had unknowingly stirred up some trouble back home. My mom disappeared, and each day I received fragments of her body. The first day, it was her right ear. The second day, her pinky finger. The third day, her heart. I sat on the couch, waiting for the doorbell to ring, delivering another part of my mom's body. On the 7th day, her body was left at the door, with her innards removed. Screaming in anguish, I clutched my mom's lifeless body, grieving the loss of my unborn child that I never knew was there. Shawn held me, promising that everything would be okay, that we would have children in the future. With aching hearts, we said our goodbyes to my mom and our lost child. When my body had recovered a bit, Shawn decided to take me back to our country. But fate had other plans. While driving my car to the airport, the brakes had been tampered with. We couldn't stop, and a truck came barreling towards us, sealing our fate. Shawn turned to me with tender eyes, saying he would always love me. In that moment, everything seemed to slow down. He told me to remember that he loved me. The next second, he turned the wheel sharply, protecting me as the truck collided with his side. The sounds of impact and screeching tires overwhelmed me, blood filling my senses as I closed my eyes and lost consciousness. As I drifted away, held tightly in Shawn's embrace, I realized that he was willing to sacrifice his life for me. It was the first time he had said those 3 words, "I love you." But I had forgotten his existence completely. I kept bothering his nephew while he was unconscious. When I woke up again, Mike gave me some water to drink. Thinking about the past, tears began to well up on my face. I stared at the empty air in front of me, trying hard to hold back the choking sensation in my throat. How did he survive these 5 years? He saw me doting on William in front of him, saw me turn deaf for William. How much pain must he have felt? Witnessing me not remembering anything, he alone guarded those memories, guarded the promises we made. Mike wiped away my tears and said, "The doctor mentioned that you've experienced too many painful things in a short period of time. Your body couldn't handle it, so it forced itself to forget everything that happened in that half year. Your mother's death, and Shawn." Hysterically, I demanded, "Why didn't you tell me?" The doctor said if they forced you to remember those painful memories, there is a high risk of you breaking down mentally. Your brain chose to forget them to protect you. His voice choked up. We needed to protect you too. Later, when Shawn woke up, I told him everything. He said that as long as you were healthy, he would do anything. Shawn thought that when he recovered and returned home, he would arrange a romantic meeting for you both to fall back in love. Mike paused and sighed softly. However, before he returned home, you had already met William at a party. Because William resembled Shawn, you mistook William for your dream Shawn and fell in love with him at first sight, thinking he was your destined partner. So, I continued his words. Therefore, in order to prevent me from being triggered, he silently bore everything, watching me with William. I couldn't continue speaking, all the words stuck in my throat, tears uncontrollably streaming down my face. The door of the ward was pushed open, and as I looked towards it, the person who came was not who I expected. William's eyes and nose were slightly red, with a hint of fatigue under his eyes, a hint of blue, and his stubble unshaven, clearly showing he hadn't taken the time to groom himself or rest properly. We stayed silent, and just as I was about to ask him to leave, he spoke first. When the kidnapper's stick swung towards me, you didn't hesitate to throw yourself on me. Do you remember the name you shouted when you threw yourself on me? I shook my head. I don't remember. Shawn, he said. I was stunned. He chuckled. So, the Shawn you shouted when you threw yourself on me that day is actually my uncle. After we were rescued, I investigated the men you had been involved with before you met me. He took a deep breath. The romantic love story between you and my uncle is truly moving. You mistook me for my uncle. The person you always loved was my uncle. In a crisis, the person you wanted to save wasn't me, it was my uncle. I softly responded. William chuckled. So, you don't want me anymore. He paused, and corrected himself. No, you never wanted me from the beginning. We stayed silent for a while, and William's voice sounded hoarse. I've wronged you these past few years, made you turn deaf. I'm sorry. I remained silent, looking towards the door, waiting for Shawn to walk in, but Shawn still hadn't shown up. I got out of bed, feeling a bit weak, unsteady on my feet. I wanted to clear my thoughts, so I headed to the stairwell for a smoke. Turning the doorknob and pushing the door open, I was hit by the strong smell of smoke in the stairwell, causing me to furrow my eyebrows slightly. Shawn looked at me, his smoking motion froze. I noticed the scattered cigarette butts at his feet, indicating he had been here for a while. I had a lot to say, but when the words reached my lips, all I could manage to ask was, Shawn, do you still love me? Pale blue smoke wafted from his mouth as he exhaled, the intense smoke lingering around his deep, profound eyes. He gazed at me, and I held my breath, waiting for his response. The next moment, he dropped the cigarette from his fingertips, took a step forward, cupped my face, and a kiss that was uniquely his descended upon me like a storm. After the kiss, he held me tightly in his arms, his kiss, his heartbeat, all filled with deep affection. His lips touched my right ear, his tone almost reverent. I love you, I never stopped loving you these past years. I promised, I will love you forever.